Hello everyone, Solid Zaku here again for part 2 of the miniature airbrushing tutorial. I'd like to start off with responding to a question I received on the Bolter and Chainsword. That is a Space Marine modeling and fluff resource that you can go to. I'll put a link in the description. And somebody asked me about their airbrush. It seems like whenever they were airbrushing, they seemed to have a problem with doing large surfaces such as land raiders and the like. Their brush would stop painting, and then all of a sudden, as soon as they yanked it back, it would splutter out, gobs of paint, completely disproportionate, without proportion to how much it should be spraying. It'd sputter and spit and nasty things like that. Well, lucky for this person, I have an answer for him, because the exact same thing happened to me when I began. And this is all entirely related to this little doohickey. That is the nozzle. And the nozzle is extremely easy to clog. And once it's clogged, you're going to have pretty much an impossible time getting your airbrush to work properly. And in kind of a funny coincidence, I actually had the problem on my Land Raider. Now you may not see that anymore. It actually looks rather pretty, I'd like to think. But enough tooting my own horn, let's get to the question. How do you keep that from happening? You keep it from happening by keeping your paints thinned correctly. And I'll go over that hopefully in this video. If my editing foo is strong. It doesn't want any trouble. But anyway, how do you take care of that? Well, all you gotta do is you gotta go onto youtube.com and look up airbrush cleaning tutorials. And, or you could also check your manufacturer's manual about cleaning the nozzle if that doesn't work for you. But here's how it breaks down. First, remove this end pen cap. You can see in there, that is, the needle attached to the chucking nut. It's kind of a funny thing because the manual in mine misspells it as chuckling nut. Anyway, you remove that, and once you're done with that, you remove the top two little things in there. You can see them side by side, across from the gun. You remove those two, then you take your screwdriver thing. Yes, wrenches become screwdrivers in Solid Zaku land. Part of the law, and you will not betray the law. And you remove this last little end cap, and once you do, you have full access to your nozzle, which will come right off so long as your needle is removed. Simply put that through a bath in your cleaning solution for about, I'd say, an hour at least. Rinse it out with very hot water, and then take the back of it and blow through it. Now, I know that may sound a little bit disgusting, but frankly, it's either that or pay $24.99, and I don't think you want to do that. I know I didn't, so I did it, and my gun works again, as you have seen may have seen oh, you actually didn't, never mind. Maybe in this one then. But suffice to say, it works again just fine. And what you do is, as soon as you've blown it out, also make sure to run a needle up the back end of it, not too hard, or else you might deform the tip. But just basically run a needle in the back of it and just to gouge out whatever remaining excess paint may be inside. And once you've done that, you should be in the clear. Just make sure that your paint is very thin. And I mean, it may seem too thin. It may not come out right the first one or two times. Just, you gotta make sure it's very, very thin. I mean, people use the consistency of milk, and honestly, I don't think that's too bad. Milkish consistency is actually very nice. Just not watery, because that's practically a wash, and of course not too thick, or else you're going to have spluttering problems again. So now, speaking of which, this is the Land Raider that I spoke of in that Bolter and Chainsword thread, and I struck lucky, actually, and you Black Templar fans who may be trying airbrushing might want to listen to this, but what it was I struck lucky because when I first started, the airbrush was spluttering, and it was spluttering red everywhere. It looks like I had sacrificed this thing to the blood god. It really, really did. And when I first came back with the good, decently thinned paints, as it were, I basically, when I was cleaning up the black edges, they would pretty much shadow in the inside of the red, giving it a very nice aged look. Very nice aged look. And frankly, it worked out well for everybody. The red looked nice, the black looks crisp, and all was right in the world as far as that goes. Now, again, I don't think my camera can show this, but you may be able to tell that I have used a gray paint through my airbrush to do what is essentially a dry brush across the black edges. And pretty much it looks almost identical to a dry brush. The only difference is it took me maybe 2 minutes instead of a half hour to do this entire tank. So that's one of the things. It not only makes painting jobs easier, it also makes them much more expedient. So that's what you can do with that. I will show more pics of the Wendigo. Oh, whoops. Let that cat out of the bag. Oh well. Here's the deal. I have on Bolter and Chainsword as well another thread that I have been neglecting for a long time. It was a thread about another paint job I was doing with my beginning in airbrushing, and that's a bit of a tale, but suffice to say, here, and there goes my light, is the Wendigo. Let's see if we can get our light back into good order. Good enough. This is the Wendigo. It is an Adeptus Astartes crude Blaine Bait. Oh boy. Viva dyslexia, right? In any case, this is a Baneblade I have painted in numerous horrendous colors, because the first time I tried airbrushing, it was with one of those testers airbrushing beginner's kits, which is essentially nothing more than a can of compressed air with a couple of bottles of shoddy airbrush paint, which, as you can see, didn't turn out quite so well, but I cleaned up a few edges and whatnots with my real airbrush, and there's the driver, minus his little vampire friend, as some people have called him. He he didn't make it, and neither did the antennae, but I'll work on that later. Let's see, if I had to say what colors were used in this, because I used almost entirely my new Master's Touch paint sets, I would say it's that Scorched Brown color again, Adaptus Battle Gray, Space Wolves Gray, and probably Ice Blue. Yeah, we'll go with that. And just as a odd aside, have you ever noticed that on GamesWorkshop.com's site they seem to be nuts over Hawk Turquoise? I've just seemed to notice that, like, every single thing that they paint, you know, not stuff from around the world, but stuff they paint, all seems to be in Hawk Turquoise at some point. I don't know, maybe the color doesn't sell well, so they're trying to hawk it as much as possible. I won't speculate on that. Games Workshop gets enough flack for its own stuff, it does. But one of the interesting things about Baneblades is carry-on luggage. So, that's very nice if you're trying to transport any heretical materials. I'm talking about literature, you filthy, filthy stoners. And finally, what can you do with another question I got asked, I think it was a PM probably. Either that or it was just one of my own personal musings. I'm not going to bother with my own thoughts here. Can you use airbrush on stuff that's already been hand-painted? The answer is a resounding yes, and here's the answer. It is a drop pod, of course, that I have done. And what I did was I touched it up with the silver metallic. It was one of the last things I did before my spray gun started gumming up on me. And supposing that wasn't the door, it was, it always is. That is the door that started the spluttering. And luckily it looks okay from the outside, it looks like damage. But It was not. It was airbrush problems. And no, the inside was hand painted. I wasn't too sure on doing fine details with an airbrush, but the ends of the doors, this made brushing down all the doors very, very simple. Ugh, Lord, I don't know what I would have done without it. Probably would have been stuck on this thing for about an hour just doing the doors, as it were. Okay, so that ends the showcase. Oh, well, I don't even know if I should, but this was from a other project I did. This was done entirely in silver before I did the drop pod. It was done entirely in the silver metallic. It was base coated in black just like everything else, and I let the black show through in a few places to show age, and after that I went after it with the brown color thinned with white and yellow to make a sort of rust ochre color, and I put it wherever rust would be found. I just picked it up at some scrap pile from a plumber supply place. You'd be surprised how, you know, trash friendly wargamers are. Love our trash. Oh, and here's the barrel to that main blade. I will tell you right now, if you're airbrushing, you're gonna hate the hell out of that thing. It is very difficult to airbrush, supposing you haven't already got it glued or nailed onto your Baneblade's turret. Okay, I'm gonna come back in a quick second with the actual airbrushing. Let's get started.